I call the honourable member, Andrew Williams.
Good morning, Mr Speaker.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. I take a call on behalf of New Zealand First in the Game Animal Council Bill. Mr Speaker, when this bill was first presented to the House, we were not particularly impressed with it. New Zealand First thought that it was, in its first drafting, somewhat of a sop to the Honourable Peter Dunn, just to satisfy the government confidence and supply agreement with the United Future Party, and that the government was just perhaps giving lip service to it initially as a result of that. We did, however, oppose it at the time, but we were confident that if it went to a select committee hearing and was given the proper light of day, that there could be huge improvements to the bill, and that turned out to be the case. And I'd like to commend the Local Government and Environment Committee and the work that was done on the committee which I'm on this bill, because it is considerably changed from the original drafted bill. The committee heard submissions in both Wellington and Christchurch. There were over 600 submissions in total, and there were many heard orally. It was very interesting and an interesting experience that our hearings in Christchurch were held at the Antarctic Centre there by the airport, and it wasn't foreseen, but through the wall from the hearings room was a movie of Antarctica going on, which was on a 30-minute loop, which ended up in a large crescendo of music and sound at the end. And Jackie Dean and others, Paul Goldsworth will recall, that it was somewhat ironic that as many of the submitters were getting sort of to the end of their various presentations, coincidentally there was this loud growth and crescendo of music and sound, and it was somewhat ironic that people commented, I didn't expect to have a musical accompaniment to my submission. It was quite surreal, but it was quite fitting, because many of those comments and statements that were being made by many parties from across the sector involved in game animals and in hunting and in recreation and conservation, it was very appropriate that they had a musical background to it. But it was good to see so many people coming together from all those interests, and I would like to congratulate all those who did so, many of which who had been involved on the Game Animal Council Establishment Committee for the last 5 or 6 years to get it to this point, and particularly the likes of Gary Ottman, who chaired that committee, which brought much of the thinking together to where it is today. It was also very good to see an old colleague of mine, Tom Williams, in Christchurch, who led the delegation there and spoke on behalf of quite a number of the entities. Tom was the former chairman of the New Zealand Game Industry Board many years ago when I was in the venison industry, and Tom has huge experience from across the deer industry and the game industry, and it was very good to see Tom again taking a lead role in bringing so many of those entities together as one voice. And it really was impressive that there's many different factions involved in recreational hunting and in commercial hunting and in commercial deer operations, the commercial farming that impacts on the conservation estate, where wild animals can interact with farmed animals as well, and deer farms as well. It was very good to see so many of those people coming together with one voice. This bill will bring many of the parties together in a council that will have between 9 and 11 representatives. And it is good to see, Mr Speaker, that it will be independently chaired. And again, the committee made some recommendations in this, and 2 of which the Minister must appoint as chairperson a member of the Council whom the Minister considers has the appropriate management and conflict resolution skills to chair the Council. And our committee thought that was very important, that whoever is appointed as chair of this, because there are many factions involved, must have the ability to chair it and bring those parties together. Mr Speaker, it also provides, this bill provides a balance between the Department of Conservation and conservation principles and the recreation and commercial hunting sector. And we believe it achieves a good balance so that both sides are able to come to this council in one collective place and express the interests of all those involved in the many activities out there in the conservation estate and in the wild. It provides for the designation of herds of special interest and will improve the management of the likes of chamois, deer, tahr and wild pigs. The bill allows the Minister of Conservation to define locations on conservation land and designate a herd of game animals as a herd of special interest, specifically for recreational hunting, without adversely affecting other users of biodiversity values. Mr. Speaker, we included in our recommendations into the bill things such as that this would be subject to LGOIMA, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, so that the Council will be required to provide information, as other local authorities in New Zealand are required to provide official information on their meetings and their correspondence. The Council must notify the Minister of the adoption of any procedure as soon as it reasonably is practical after it has been adopted. So, again, this Council will have to keep the Minister well informed of its intentions so that it can be monitored all the way through. It was interesting too that we recommended in terms of the trophy export levy that a person must not export a game trophy from New Zealand that is a souvenir of an animal hunted and killed in New Zealand on or after the day this Act comes into force, unless the person pays to the Council the game trophy export levy prescribed in this Act. And again, this is a good thing, because it does mean that highly prized game trophies will be charged a levy to be determined by the Council, recommended to the Minister. And again, these sorts of things can only be good to help improve the return, to then be able to have funding to go back into the estate itself and managing the herds. And in terms of funding the fees, again, we provided for fees for hunting any animal that is part of a herd of special interest and the game export trophy levies. Again, there needs to be some form of funding to cover this. It does come at a cost, but it's a necessary cost, because at the end of the day, all those involved will benefit from it, and a nominal cost that is a result of this can only be good for the overall management of the herd and ensuring that this is continued well into the future for this generation and future generations to be able to enjoy the great wild and the recreational sport that this involves, and commercial hunting as well. One of the other things which I believe is good in this Act is that there will be a review of the Act not later than 3 years after the commencement, and therefore again it provides for this Parliament to ensure that the Council and its activities and what comes out of this whole piece of legislation is monitored. It won't be perfect, and there will be some teething problems, no doubt, and there will be a settling down and a bedding in process while it all comes to be. But it is good that there will be a review within 3 years, and as a result of that, I'm sure any minor discrepancies or oversights in this bill will be picked up and addressed by a future amendment, perhaps in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First is supporting this bill. We think the considerable changes that were put through as a result of the submissions and listening to the involved parties are good ones. We believe this is a step forward for this sector, and we commend it to the House.
I call the Honourable Member Jacqueline Dean.
Cool.